middle-class Indian families, a home continues to be their life's biggest saving. So it's quite heartbreaking that over 6 lakh home buyers are stuck in stalled housing projects across the country. Imagine their mental anguish. Today on the Property Show, we ask a straightforward question. Has India's justice system failed home buyers? Now, the country's legal system promises home buyers protection in multiple ways. You can approach the police and file an FIR against the cheating builder. You can go to consumer courts. You can file a case under RERA or Real Estate Regulatory Authority. You can go to High Court. You can go to Supreme Court. You can also take the builder to the Insolvency Court or NCLT. Now, that's a long list of where home buyers can get justice. Yet, none of these have been able to meet the ultimate goal of giving the home buyer his home or refund money paid with interest, be it Jaypee Infratech or Unitech or 1100 plus projects which are still stuck across the country. Now, is there a way out of this mess? Joining me on the show, Ishan Singh, Landowner, Spaze Arrow, who's stuck in litigation, lawyer Hardeep Sachdeva, partner at AZB Partners, and Unitech Homebuyer Vivek Tyagi. So, I don't even know where to begin, Ishan, because every time I take this discussion up, and I've been doing it for now 6-7 years, I'm filled with a lot of sadness. You've been fighting your case on stalled projects for now very long. Tell me, where are the gaps? If we were to just start with, if you head to the police station to lodge an FIR against a builder who has cheated you.
Well, Manisha, thank you so much. I'm glad to be on the show. I think the government's intentions are really nice, but the problem largely lies in the implementation of all the legislation the government has put together. And what we also fail to realize is that as individual home buyer, he's up against a very organized, well-organized builder who has a large area of buyers. And if you just to jump right in, but if you take a basic requirement of an FIR, which you mentioned, there's a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court called Lalita Kumari, which says if there's a cognizable offense, the police should register an FIR. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen. So a home buyer goes, files a complaint, gives a diary number, nothing really happens. Then he files a 156.3 in the court to make them move forward. That drags on and on and on. And it goes to the High Court. Then it goes to the Supreme Court. This process takes about 10-12 years. Now, a home buyer, is an individual who has a daytime job. He has a family to take care of. He can't be spending 12-15 years in this fight for justice. It breaks his back. And the mechanism is there to enforce things, but people just don't care. So I think there's a sense of, like you mentioned, you've been reporting on the show for 6 years now. People just don't care.
You mean the people or the authorities which are supposed to take care of it just don't care enough? Hardeep, would you agree with it? I mean, starting with the police, the EOW, which is then supposed to come in and investigate. I mean, people do get judgments at NCDRC. They do get judgments at High Court and Supreme Court. They do get maybe some directives and judgments at RERA. But guess what? Even those, there is no way to get them actually executed and implemented.
No, Manisha, absolutely. First of all, there is no denial to the fact that justice delayed is justice denied. And again, we know the apathy of the home buyers in our country, the timelines which are taking to even commence the process of getting the complaint on board, getting the complaint redressed by the RERA authorities or by any court or by any other investigating authorities is anyway very, very high. There are no cast in stone timelines or fixed timelines given in any statute. I think the time has come where every such complaint needs to be redressed, resolved by the appropriate authority within the agreed timelines. That is, I think, the need of the hour right now.
We've got Vivek with us, who's a Unitech home buyer. I'm sure, Vivek, your fight has been very long. You've managed to get judgment from India's highest consumer protection court, NCDRC, for a refund, full refund. And yet, I don't think any Unitech home buyer who's been stuck in projects has got anything so far. You've now got Enforcement Directorate again being asked by Supreme Court to file a status report on steps being taken to bring back the siphoned money. So what do we make of it? I mean, I don't think home buyers have left any stone unturned in trying to get a resolution.
Absolutely, Manisha. Especially for Unitech home buyers, I can say for sure that we left no stone unturned. And we have got accordingly results also. We have got orders from Supreme Court. We got the forensic audit done against Unitech. We got the company overtaken by government. But the real problem is actually government of India and the will with the government of India to do something for the people, for the poor, for the downtrodden, for the middle class taxpayers. For example, I'll tell you, government had the will to make the tallest statue of the world. They have done it in record time, just 3 years. But for home buyers, for middle class, for suffering taxpayers, there is no justice. People are dying without justice. But nothing is moving, nothing is happening. However, we have got decree from NCDRC, we have got judgments from Supreme Court refunding us part money, executing the NCDRC decree in part. And still, justice is nowhere in sight. People are dying
Vivek,
without
there is a board,
justice.
right, which has been constituted again
Yes.
because of the Ministry of Finance stepping in. Why is the board not being able to move on building those homes again or completing the projects?
I think it's because of their intentions. They don't have will. They are typical bureaucrats appointed by Finance Ministry. They are going for every small decision. For every small decision, they are approaching Supreme Court. Supreme Court is literally managing this Unitech Limited now, and I think because of this only, yesterday only, Supreme Court has appointed one more retired judge, Mr. Sapre, to oversee this property monetization.
The Supreme Court has become literally the adjudicator for trying to get any of this mess resolved. And talking about the government, NCLT, which is the insolvency court, that was brought in. There were changes made again for home buyers to also be part of a insolvency resolution process. But even NCLT, if you look at where maximum homes are stuck, is under Jaypee Infratech, about 25,000 homes stuck in Noida area, Noida region. Now, they also haven't got the wheel moving, despite the fact that they voted for Suraksha to come in and rebuild the homes. We caught up with Aaditya Gutgutia. He is one of the representatives of the home buyers, and this is what he had to say.
Unfortunately, fortunately, we've been made into a ping pong ball between the NCLT and the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sends us to NCLT, NCLT again sends us back to the Supreme Court. And in the process, it's almost been 5 years since we first reached Supreme Court's door, and Supreme Court promised to give us justice. They said the company can go to Bay of Bengal or whatever, but home buyers will get justice. After 5 years, I don't think there has been any precious little movement. Even recently, since the last voting happened, which was about 10 months back, we're still in NCLT, and NCLT is spending almost 90-95% of their time in trying to reconcile 750 crores, which was asked by Supreme Court to be parked, whether it has to go to Jaypee Infratech or Jaiprakash Associates. And in the meanwhile, the project where 20,000 home buyers are stuck, which is of a significantly higher value, probably 20,000 crores, is being ignored. So for 750 crores, a project of 20,000 crores is stuck. So I think there is no sense of proportion in terms of the pain and the loss and the financial implication, whether it's for banks or for us in the judicial system, and the wheels are excruciatingly slow. Secondly, what we've realized that the incumbent builder in some ways has managed to vitiate the process in multiple ways, whether it's through the IRP, whether it's through the judiciary, whether it's through NCLT, whether it's through some of the so-called home buyer leaders, whether he's managed to have his way around and retain control on the company one way or the other, while the law is absolutely clear that it has to become independent. That has not been, they've not been able to enforce that.
So, Ishan, if I were to come back to you and just look at the rights of the home buyers, like you rightly said, Everything is there. Home buyers can approach RERA, they can approach consumer forums, they can also go to IBC, and there should be a resolution. It's not happening. So then what do we do? How do we get out of this mess and make sure that these people get their homes?
I think, Manisha, there are two aspects here. One is people getting homes. The second aspect is people should get the refund with interest, right? Now, when a developer goes bankrupt, the possibility of getting that home is not there anymore. But actually, I want to take a step back. The problem actually starts when the government departments don't do what they're supposed to do. For example, Haryana, it starts with the DTCP giving a commercial license for a property. They should not be giving a license for a project if the developer doesn't meet their due diligence. They have if you look at the DTCP Act, there's exhaustive net worth requirements, experience requirements, all sorts of requirements. Then you have to come to RERA to get registered. In my case, in the example of Spaze Arrow, RERA gave registration for a project which didn't even have environmental clearance, and 250 people were sold units. So clearly there are lapses. So I think first part is the government machinery which enables the developers to create or sell a project has to be taken to task, and they have to exercise due diligence. And there has to be some kind of, for lack of a better word, we need a regulator to regulate the regulators now. So I think this regulator to regulate the regulators, like the gentleman from Unitech mentioned, now we have a retired Supreme Court judge to help the Supreme Court delve into the matters. So, look, the problem starts actually by the government departments not doing what they are created to do, which is protect the interest of the public at large. For some reason, over and over again, we've seen this. An example of Kant Enclave, where a project was given, sold, till it went to Supreme Court, and then the justice there said this project is illegal. In the case of Ambience Mall, same thing happened. It was a residential project. The guy got commercial license, sold it and harvested the money. This happens again and again. So I think this has to stop. There has to be someone who has to go to that government department, literally shake them up and say, why is this happening again and again?
Agreed. And it's happening. I mean, I've met so many home buyers from middle class backgrounds who are paying rent, who are paying an EMI, and they haven't been able to upgrade their lifestyle because of that double burden. Many of them have actually, because they had just been hoping for a home after retirement, are still living in rented homes. It's a sorry state of affairs. But let's come back and delve on that matter a little bit more on how do you get people to take action in a time-bound manner. Vivek, I'm going to thank you here for joining us, but we'll continue to find out how do you get out of this mess to really come in aid of the home buyer. I'm going to read out the deeply saddening numbers again of home buyers stuck in unfinished projects across the country. Now, according to ANEROC reports, the number is 1,132 unfinished projects in 7 metro cities, totaling over 6 lakh homes. Now, these projects are those which were launched in 2014 or before, and at least 71% are within the 80 lakh rupee budget range. So these are really for middle class Indians who end up using the largest chunk of their life savings for buying a home. What's more, under COVID, developers have managed to get a 6-month to 1-year extension for project completion, and they're now sending out warnings that they will stop construction on projects if prices of steel, cement and other construction inputs are not brought down. Now, all of this makes a complete mockery of RERA, or the Real Estate Regulatory Authority Act. In fact, the Supreme Court has recognized the dilution of RERA rules by states and has directed Ministry of Housing to undertake a detailed scrutiny of two things: state-specific RERA general rules and agreement for sale regulations. Again though, here the ministry has only sought details of the agreement of sale or builder-buyer agreement from the various states and not of all the rules. Hardeep, now I'm going to come back to what you mentioned in segment 1, that we need to get everybody, including government authorities, to act in time. Here you have the apex body, Ministry of Housing, actioning only half of what the Supreme Court has asked it to do.
Yes, but I'll still draw a distinction for two things. One, all projects which were conceived and launched before RERA came into force, and the projects which were launched after RERA came into force. Now, what happened in the projects which were launched pre-RERA regime, since there was no cast in stone regime to the developers to follow a financial discipline, in those old projects, most of the developers of the stuck projects have taken the money out of the project, and therefore all the home buyers are left high and dry right now. Now there, obviously you have the recourse available, but even there is little that RERA also can do, because there is no money left for the developer to complete the project. Now all those projects which were launched post RERA, there we can still run the data once again. You will still find that far more financial discipline was inculcated, and the delays are of course there as well, but the delays are lesser than the obscene amount of delays that we saw in the projects.
So Hardeep, I agree with you, and let me ask you one question. Are we saying then that all the projects which are launched after 2016, and if the buyer is approaching RERA, he's getting the desired outcome?
No, I'm not saying that. No, you're right. You're not getting desired outcome from the courts. Because I go back to the previous, the statement, there are no timelines, there are no convictions as of now imposed on these authorities to work within. And therefore, they can decide a case in 3 months, they can decide a case in 6 months, they can hear all the parties, complete the evidence, they can reserve the judgment and pass that judgment even after 1 year. There is no such timelines given to them. Therefore, the need of the hour is to have some timelines given on every aspect of at least all home buyer cases.
You've said that again, and it's important to reiterate that. But Ishan, this seems that again it's the regulator who needs regulation. It needs again a new set of rules and laws to do its job.
Well, Manisha, I think, look, the chairman of every authority has to be held accountable. Now, the way our legal system is framed is every time the government has made an authority for a specific sector, there's an appellate authority. So there's NCLT, there's NCLAT, there's RERA, there's a Real Estate Appellate Tribunal. But for the things to matter to even trickle up to the appellate authority, the lower authority has to pass an order. So I have seen in my cases over here, the NCLT reserved an order. The order was pronounced 7 months later, right? So 7 months later, I actually for the first time didn't understand the logic of reserving an order to be pronounced 7 months later. You heard everything. Why are you waiting for 7 months? And I'm looking at RERA. So I'm looking at case people there for 4 years, 3.5 years, and there's bouncing up and down. And I can say if you ever come to RERA court, your heart will bleed. You see retired old people, 75, 80 years old. Someone's coming on a wheelchair in the hope of getting some justice. He just keeps coming and coming. Now, you see, unfortunately, the way I look at this, and maybe this is a slightly controversial way to look at it, but it is the developer lobby which is influencing these authorities to go slow. Now, I'll give you an example. If you look at the famous Supertech judgment, there were 711 people who were originally victims in that situation. By the time the matter, Allahabad High Court gave an order in 2014. The Supreme Court gave an order in 2021, 7 years later. In those 7 years, there were only 250 odd people left. Now, the 459 people who dropped off along the way, what happened to them? What happened to those 459 lives, 459 families? Some might have died, some might have had anguish, someone might have had a heart attack. I know of unit holders who have got so tired that they've actually had a heart attack. Now, there's a criminal provision under Section 415 of mental torture, right? Should every home buyer now go and file a case against every authority for mental torture? But coming to being practical, I think coming back to the point earlier, there has to be a time-bound adjudication of 1 year, or for criminal matters, I think also, sorry to go back to the criminal part, NCLT has said you need 10% of unit holders in a project to come forward. If more than 10 people in a project come to the police station for a common complaint, there obviously there can't be smoke, there has to be fire behind it. It should be made mandatory to register an FIR. Just 10 people. Look, in Section 144, public is termed as 5 people. So if 5 people in a project come to a police station with the same complaint against the builder, police should register an FIR. They don't. So I think implementation, if I had one thing to tell the authorities, anyone watching this, please, with folded hands, give timelines for resolution in matters. If you're going to pass an order, please don't reserve it for 6 months. Please think of the people who have come to you, whose lives are in your hands, and just be a good human being.
Absolutely. And I really think that everybody concerned here in this, stakeholders who are going to enable a home, reaching a home buyer, because he's paying with his life savings. And only in India do you have a home buyer paying almost 90% of the house cost before he's got anything to see. I think there's a lot more which needs to be done, and a lot more care needs to be taken. We're going to end with just one statement. Justice delayed is justice denied, and especially when it's a home that somebody's paid with their life savings with, I think the system needs to get far, far more accountable and deliver justice in a time-bound manner. Thank you so much for watching.